Hey there, this is Jen with Laughing Lotus Wellness, and today we're gonna have a quick tutorial on how to use crystals effectively together. So I had a client ask me, and I thought rather than trying to like type out a response, I was like, that's just too much time. What I wanted to do is walk through really briefly a couple of different ways to use stones and why they become more powerful together, okay? So what I first want to do is talk about if you're a newbie, if you're beginning to start to have crystals around you and you feel drawn to that, congratulations. This is such a super fun way to begin using another modality for healing. And what happens with crystals is that scientifically, internally, they're created in perfect order. So even though they might look like jagged or whatever on the outside, right? They're actually created with perfect symmetry on the inside. So they're a really powerful tool because what happens that we know scientifically is that as human beings, we're made of energy. When we are in a relationship to other things, they hold energy. So we begin to want to align with the energy of the things around us. So my puppy's over here in the back corner. But I also have crystals sitting here with me, and they're always on my desk. They're always around my workspace. I use them for meditation. And so what they really do is they're like super boosters for our energy, for the experience we're having internally of the stuff we don't see. And so they can really help us boost things like peace, spirituality, focus, relaxation, just releasing things, so many things, clearing and cleansing, huge benefit of stones, okay? So what we're going to talk about today is just if you're new, grabbing some and having some stones on hand. And again, they can be on your desk, they can be by your bed, they can be any place in around you that you feel like you could use them. You can carry them in your purse. And so they're just great extra bonus materials, okay? Now, singly, awesome. In conjunction, really cool, right? So we want to think about what happens is that when stones interact with one another, their energy is amplified, okay? So if I have more than one stone or two stones or five stones, I'm beginning to really develop this like whole energy system, right? Created by myself, whether that's for a certain subject or something I'm working on, protection for my home. It could be so many things. So I'm gonna share one with you, and then we're gonna go through just a couple of them, okay? We're just gonna kind of walk through briefly. This will not be a whole long thing. Forgive me, I'm trying to keep all the stones on here as I show this to you. This was a grid I got in Sedona, Arizona. And you can't see it, but I love what it says. It says, may the followers of all religions and spiritual paths work together to create peace among all the people of earth. And really what I did was when I was sitting in the pandemic and I was so stressed and I felt like there was a lot I couldn't do, this really resonated with me. And so I brought it home, and you'll notice just briefly looking at it that you can see a lot of pink and green. Pink and green is really resonant of this heart space chakra. And so I really wanted to amplify like this prayer or blessing, if you will, that I wanted to send out to the world. It is amplified by having a handful of them together, okay? Now, I kind of made up how I sat them on here. It just looks pretty. So, right, we can just kind of make up our own system, which is totally fine, or use a really pretty grid like this. This is high-end, kind of fancy, honestly, right? Now, I've been practicing for some time with crystals, so over time, I grab a little bit more like fancy items, but I'm gonna show you, like, for a long time, this is just laminated. This is one of the crystal grids. And so what I can do is I can go in and set the crystals on the different points, right? And I could use this bigger one. So I can either use this whole big thing out here or use this inner grid or both, okay? And so this is going to amplify different things for us, and we can pick and choose and hand pick the stones that go on here depending on what we want to do with them. What are we trying to achieve? That's always what I would like encourage to think. I was like, what do I want to achieve with this crystal grid? Okay. Is it more peace? Is it connection? Is it health and relationships? Is it a relationship with money? You can literally hand pick and choose which ones you want to use. Honestly, I pick them. This is going to sound very scientific, by what I like. I pick it by what I like to look at, honestly. And so if one really resonates for me, that's what I pick. And specifically, if I do read something where I know it has an extra boost of some kind that's specific, that's fitting where I want to go, for sure I'm going to choose it. So I'm going to show you really quick a couple resources because this is super cool. Of course, I had my page marked and now it's not there, so that's amazing. I wanted to give you an example of how we can set up a crystal grid, and books will walk us through this. So this is Crystal Muse by Heather Askinosi and Timmy Gendreau, and they are phenomenal. So Crystal Muse is out there online, great book, has some really neat crystal grids, and they walk you through right here. Now, what's neat about this, and I'm going to show you another book that I really love and recommend, is that they'll tell you exactly what stones, okay? But here's a little bit of the detriment to doing books like this, is that then I feel like sometimes we get stuck, like I have to use the things and I have to go buy all the fancy stones that go on this. No, you don't. Will that boost things for you? Absolutely. Do you have to do it that way? No. You can sub out things that you have on hand. And so don't ever be afraid to build something that feels congruent to you and feels intuitive. Like, that's great. Trust that. That's still really powerful. Okay. So that's just one example. So again, this is Crystal Muse. This is a beautiful hardbound book by Heather Askinosi and Timmy Gendreau. And they are the founders and owners of Crystal Muse. And they're online. They're everywhere. You can go hook up with them online, on socials. They're out there. This is Crystals for Energy Healing, and this is by Ashley Levy. Ashley Levy is like kind of my woman crystal crush, I'll be honest. She is actually the person who inspired me to go through a crystal education program. It is her program that she leads, and I'm not selling anything. She's not paying me to say that. She has programs for people who want to do crystal healing. I fell in love with this. I was on State Street in Madison, Wisconsin, and I walked into her store, and there's so many beautiful crystals, and the energy is so incredible in there, and the staff was so helpful. And it was the first time I ever saw a crystal grid, and I didn't know anything about them. I was like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I have no place doing this. And so what's really neat is this book, and it's just Crystals for Energy Healing, a practical source book of 100 crystals. One, she walks you through the crystals, which is really amazing. And then there are some, also she adds in some crystal grids. Here's why hers I love, because I feel like they're really accessible. And so if you're ever able to pop in and look at the store, number one, you're for sure going to find all these things around, and you're usually able to access them. But I also just like that she talks about the stones and includes what I feel like are like a little bit more simplified grids. They aren't as intimidating as some grids that I've seen. And so they're like a recipe. So think of this very much like a recipe book. And you're like, hey, I'm really interested in working on something. And she talks about how to activate your crystal grids. There's all kinds of great material in here. And so even though she's certainly not paying me, this is not, so again, this is coming right from my soul. This is not like I'm not a paid endorsement here. And she has some for the body. And this is really how I began to incorporate crystals into a broader spectrum than just holding them for meditation or just having them in my space. So this is an epic tool. I strongly recommend if you're looking to begin diving into this and you would really like some hand holding, if you will, and not in a disrespectful way, like you just don't know where to start. I didn't either. This is my crystal grid healing Bible. And it talks about some of the stones, the properties of the stones, and also how to use the crystal grids effectively. So I want to recommend those two things because they're super powerful. And just share again, you guys, it could be on a piece of paper. I just laminated this. It is not fancy. It could be a piece of paper. It could be out of a book. It could be something you literally feel inspired to hand make yourself. You do not have to create a crystal grid that's specific to something. You can create your own design that just feels beautiful. People can do them on cloths, on pieces of wood. You can put them somewhere kind of tucked away in your home if that feels like it's going to be a little bit more effective, or if it's in a space where you kind of need extra energy. So I just want to put out there that there's so many ways to do this, and to try to start small, meaning give yourself space. You don't have to have all these stones on hand. I didn't either. I continue to collect and grow what I have on hand so that I can do more things like this. But it's literally like a Pandora's box of joy and fun to begin to really dive deeper into using crystals this way. And so I would give you those 2 books and just want to kind of dial in that idea about how this works and looks. And again, that idea that it's amplifying, right? Everything that we do is amplified then. So if that's something you're looking to do, that's great. If you're not, if you're like, hey, yo, I'm great with my one selenite wand or my one angel aura or whatever it is that you've got floating around in your home, or around your workplace or whatever, you can just use one thing at a time. Or you can combine 3 and have them in the same space, and that's extra juicy and beautiful. And if you want to get extra fancy, right, if you begin to feel called to like, I really feel like I want to be using these patterns as sacred geometry, which is what this is sacred geometry to help boost and elevate the message and the work and the energy that I want to send out, that's amazing, right? Is it necessary? No, right? I want to be really clear that if this is something that you want to do and feel called to do, I think that's awesome. But always know that just having some crystals on hand that feel like they are really important for you and what you're doing and working on, or they bring you peace, is amazing, right? So you can do as much or as little as you want to do, particularly when you're starting this journey. But I just wanted to walk you through this and give you some examples of how using stones together is like an extra juicy thing, right? Like, why might I ever want to do this? Well, because it's going to boost it. But we all start small and we all start with what we've got. And so again, if you've got 3 crystals on hand, you can put them in the same little clump together from time to time, spread them out for separate needs if you have that. And again, trust that you will kind of feel drawn if you feel like you want to do this work. Like the minute I walked in that store and saw grids, I knew. It was an instantaneous, like, I need to do this. Like, this is a really cool thing. This is a really neat tool. And so you'll know if you're getting called to do it. So if it looks kind of neat, walk through some stores, hold on to some stones, check things out. And then if you get those books, it's a really great place to sort of start getting really educated about how you can use them with intention, right? It's not just like putting some stuff together that looks pretty or is neat, which is awesome. And that's great. That's also really intuitive healing, but really like an informed way of using stones in a really healing way. So just lots of options. All right, guys, this is Jen with Laughing Lotus Wellness, supporting in your path to purpose. And of course, talking all things crystal healing here, just to support your journey. If you have any questions about that, obviously feel free to comment below. Feel free to reach out to me and ask me questions if you have them. I will always do my best to serve whatever answer I can provide. I will. If I don't, I'll toss out some ways we might figure that out. But I always welcome in questions and comments. And so if you have anything that you want to add, please feel free to. Otherwise, this is Jen, and we'll see you next time with Laughing Lotus Wellness, supporting on your path to purpose.